Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to be spawning our rifle at runtime from our character class in C++. Let's dive in and see how it's done. Okay, so we want to get our gun spawning as a child of the shooter character. The first point of call is to be able to spawn that actor from within another actor. We're going to do this at runtime. We're going to do it at begin play because that's the way you kind of need to do it. When you're spawning actors, you need to do it at runtime. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to get hold of the world first, so get world. And then we're going to call a function on get world. By the way, world and level are synonyms. So what we're actually doing here is we're going up to the level and saying, hey, level, can you create us an actor? Because all actors essentially belong or live in a level. So then we're saying, spawn actor for me, please. And this is a spawn actor that takes a template. You can say, I want this actor that I'm going to spawn to be of type a gun. And for that to work, we're going to need to have an include up here, hash include for the gun.h. And then we're going to take in an argument, and the argument to spawn is actually can be a class type. So by default, it will go ahead and spawn the C++, but here we want to spawn the blueprint child of this gun. So we need to figure out what that's going to be. That needs to be hooked up in Blueprint. It can't be hooked up here in C++, at least not easily. The best place to do it is in Blueprint. So we're going to do an Alt-O to go to the header file for our shooter character, and we're going to add in a new U property here to allow us to configure the class that we should be pointing to in order to spawn an actor. Which blueprint class should we be spawning from this shooter character? We're going to have it as an edit defaults only. Why edit defaults only? Because we don't want to be able to edit this at runtime, because it would give a false impression that you can change what type of gun we're using at runtime, whereas begin play has already been called, that gun's already been spawned, and so it wouldn't actually update anything. So we don't want to make it editable to not give people a false impression of what can be done. And then here we're going to use a macro called t subclass of, which you may or may not have come across before. And t subclass of is a template, so we use these angle brackets again, and we want it to say a subclass of gun. And basically what this means is that it allows Blueprint to restrict the classes that we can select from to only the classes that are subclasses of the gun C++ class. Now, this isn't going to be a pointer because we're not pointing to an actual instance of the gun. What we're getting here in this variable is a class itself. In this case, it's a blueprint class, but it's still a class. So what we're going to want to call this is the gun class, just to make it super clear that this is not actually the gun itself. We do want another U property here to store the gun. And that is going to be not an edit default. So basically, we don't want to make this a visible property at all, but it's going to be an a gun pointer. See the difference? One of them is a t subclass of gun. The other one is a gun pointer. And this one is the actual gun. That's once we've created an instance of the class, that's where we're going to store it. So let's go on over into our shooter CPP and finish off this begin play where we are spawning things. So we're going to have gun equal to get world spawn actor gun, and the argument we're going to pass in here is the gun class, which we're going to be setting over in Blueprint. So let's go and try and compile this. It may give us some errors. Let's see. I'll have the message log open with the compile log, and sure enough, we're getting some errors over here in the header file saying undeclared identifier. It's because we need to forward declare the gun. So I'm just going to do this at the top because it's in two places. I'm going to say class a gun, like so. And just a reminder, forward declaring like this means that we can keep our compile times down by not including too much in the heavy header files. Let's try recompile and see. Looks like that was the only error. It's now compiled successfully. Let's go ahead and hit play and see what happens. Exit, have a look at we basically want to have a look at the message log, which I don't have open. So let's go to Window and Developer Tools and have a look at the output log and see if we have any errors here. Yes, spawn actor failed because no class was specified. Sure, no class was specified because we didn't configure it yet in Blueprint. So this I'm going to give as a challenge to you to hook up the gun, find the property in our character blueprint, set it to the correct gun, and test that it spawns. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, welcome back. So let's go over to our shooter character BP and find the property, which should be on the root or the class defaults. Go into details, and under shooter character, you can see we've got our rotation rate here, which we have configured. And we have got our gun class, which is a drop-down, which allows me to choose between the gun, being the C++ gun, and here's where our naming convention comes in handy. The things prefixed with BP underscore are the blueprints. So we want our BP underscore rifle. We'll go ahead and select that, compile, save, go over into the scene and hit play. Now, hopefully we have not got any errors about spawning our gun. The gun should have spawned okay. And to find out if it has, we can F8 and have a look in the world outliner. If I make the world outliner a little bit bigger, I can search for the BP underscore rifle. Hooray, we've got a BP underscore rifle. The moment it's in the middle of nowhere and it's not correctly childed, that's going to be the subject of the next lecture. So I will see you there.